All right, let's talk about something that trips up so many people when they file their taxes. Getting an ITIN. That's an individual taxpayer identification number for a dependent. It seems straightforward, but the rules are just so tricky and the paperwork is incredibly strict. Honestly, one tiny mistake can bring your entire tax return to a grinding halt.
So let's really get into it. And trust me, when we say one missing detail, that is not an exaggeration. We're going to break down the biggest hurdles you have to jump over to get this right. And we're not just going to list rules. We're going to look at the why, the cause and effect that makes this so confusing for so many people.
Okay, first things first. We have to understand why the rules are what they are today. Because the whole reason you need an ITIN for a dependent now is completely different than it was just a few years back. This wasn't just a small tweak. The whole game changed.
So check this out. Before 2018, it was pretty simple. The ITIN was basically your ticket to claiming a personal exemption, which lowered your taxable income. Simple enough, right? Well, then the big tax law change happened, and poof, personal exemptions were suspended. So the ITIN had to get a new job. Its role completely shifted to being the key that unlocks a very specific set of tax credits.
And here they are, the allowable tax benefits. This is absolutely crucial. You can't just get an ITIN for dependent just 'cause. You have to be claiming one of these benefits on your tax return. If you don't, the IRS will just flat out reject the application. Now pay close attention to that last one, the credit for other dependents, or ODC. It's the most common one, and believe me, it's going to be super important in just a minute. All right, so that brings us to hurdle number 1, the U.S. residency rule. This is a big one. It's a non-negotiable for most people, and honestly, this is where a ton of applications just hit a brick wall.
So, the general rule sounds simple, right? If you claim a dependent, you have to prove they live in the U.S. Easy. But, this is the tax code we're talking about. It's never that simple. The real brain twister is in the exceptions.
And here are the two big exceptions. The first one, for military families stationed overseas, is pretty clear-cut. But the second one, for residents of Canada or Mexico, well, that's where the trap is. It looks like a simple waiver, but there's a huge catch that's not obvious at all.
So this is the scenario that gets people. Let's say your dependent lives in Mexico. You see that exception and you think, great, I don't need to prove U.S. residency. Then you go to claim that really common benefit we just talked about, the credit for other dependents. So, what happens then? Boom, the exception vanishes.
This is what you absolutely have to understand. The moment you claim the ODC for your dependent in Canada or Mexico, it's like a switch gets flipped. That residency waiver is gone, and now you are right back at square one. You must prove they are a U.S. resident.
Okay, so now you know you need to prove U.S. residency. That leads us straight into hurdle number 2, the document gauntlet. And we're going to start with the MVP of documents, the one the IRS loves most.
The IRS has this special term, a standalone document. Think of it like a golden ticket. It's the one single document that proves two big things all at once: who the person is and their foreign status. No other paperwork needed for those two things.
And when it comes to getting an ITIN, there's only one standalone document: a valid, unexpired foreign passport. That's it. If you have that, you might think you're all set. And you are, for proving identity and foreign status. But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive catch when it comes to proving residency.
This right here is the hidden trap. You have the passport, you think you're good to go, but what if it's missing that one little thing, a U.S. date of entry stamp? What then?
Well, the passport basically loses its superpower. It's still good for proving who they are and their foreign status, but for proving U.S. residency? Nope, it's no longer a standalone document for that. You now have to provide completely separate documents to prove they live here. And what documents you need? Well, that all depends on how old they are.
And here's the breakdown straight from the IRS. As you can see, it's all about age. For the little ones, under 6, a U.S. medical record works. For kids between 6 and 17, it's all about school records, a state ID or a driver's license. But look at what happens when they turn 18. The requirements get tougher. You need all that stuff plus something like a rental agreement or a utility bill in their name.
Okay, and one last super important point about documents. The IRS wants originals or certified copies. A certified copy is the real deal. It comes from the official agency that issued the document in the first place, with a seal and everything. What they will not accept is a notarized copy. That's just where you take a photocopy to a notary and they stamp it. The IRS will reject that every single time. It's a critical difference. Okay, on to our final hurdle. And honestly, this might be the most confusing, head-scratching part of the whole process. It feels like a total catch-22.
And this is what everyone says. Wait a minute, I can't get an ITIN without filing a tax return, but I can't file the return without the ITIN. It sounds completely impossible. The IRS instructions even say to attach a tax return. How in the world are you supposed to do that?
Well, here's the secret. You do it all at once. It's actually pretty clever. You prepare your entire tax return, your 1040, just like you normally would. But when you get to the spot for your dependent Social Security or ITIN number, you just leave it blank. Then you take your completed Form W-7, the ITIN application, and you attach it to the very front of that tax return. You mail the whole package together and the IRS processes them as a single unit. All right, you've made it through all the hurdles. You know why you need it, you've proved residency, you have the right documents. So, what's the final step? How do you actually submit all this stuff in the safest, most effective way? Well, you've got a couple of options. So option 1, you can mail everything yourself. But think about that. That means putting your dependent's original passport, a vital document, into an envelope and sending it off to the IRS. You won't see it again for weeks, maybe even months. Option 2 is way better. You use a certifying acceptance agent, or a CAA. These are pros authorized by the IRS. You meet with them, they check out your original documents, and then they hand them right back to you. No mailing your passport anywhere. And get this, using a CAA makes a real difference. Your application is over 15% more likely to get approved. And the reason is simple. These agents are experts. They know all these tricky rules we just went over, so they can spot a problem with your application before you send it in. It's like having an expert double-check your work.
So let's recap the big takeaways here. First, remember the ITIN isn't for exemptions anymore. It's for claiming specific tax benefits. Second, proving U.S. residency is almost always a must, especially if you claim that ODC. Third, a passport without a U.S. entry date is not the golden ticket for residency. You'll need more documents. And always, always submit the W-7 with your tax return. Finally, using a certifying acceptance agent is just the smartest, safest way to go.
When you really break it down, this whole process just goes to show how one tiny detail, a date stamp, a specific credit, can completely change the game for your tax return. It really makes you wonder, right? What other hidden traps like this are buried in the tax code? Thanks for diving into this with me.